Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing regaining respect from your ex, rebuilding trust after begging and pleading. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing regaining respect from your ex, rebuilding trust after begging and pleading. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you need to avoid begging and pleading. But what if you already have? In today's podcast, I'll be giving you 3 pieces of advice to regain respect from your ex after begging and pleading. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is stop acting desperate. Now this might sound easier than it is actually to implement, but you need to be focusing your mind on preventing things from getting any worse. I always like to say you need to make sure that you stop standing on a glass floor. That means you've got to stop falling. You've got to stop making things worse. You've got to stop the rot. And if you're listening to today's podcast, you obviously have come to a conclusion that begging and pleading isn't going to help you. And unfortunately, that is the case. Now, you are right. That is not going to help you. And if you've been doing that, it's actually a good thing that you've now come to terms with it, because we can start moving forward in a positive way. And if you're listening to this podcast, then obviously you've since come to that conclusion. So you need to stop acting desperate. You need to stop the rot. You need to make sure that you're now standing on firmer ground. If you want to try to get your ex back, it's about improving your chances of success rather than reducing the chances. And the begging, the pleading, all of that desperation was absolutely reducing your opportunity of one day reconnecting. So you need to stop acting desperate. And the first thing you need to do when you are trying to remove that from your life is to busy yourself with positive thoughts and positive activities. You will know better than anybody that you feel more desperate and more needy when you have less to do. I would suggest that the likelihood is that you are going to be acting more desperate, begging, pleading, texting, calling, knocking on their door, waiting outside where they work. You're going to be doing these things when you don't have things that you should be doing. Now, of course, even if you've got to go to work, you probably had a moment where you've managed to quickly text your ex and then maybe you've regretted doing so because they haven't replied. But I would say that most of the time, you're going to be texting your ex, calling your ex, and all of those other things when you don't have anything to do. So when you're sitting at home alone, maybe just before bed, maybe when you wake up, those are the moments where you're most likely to be making these mistakes. So the answer to the question of what you can do to stop acting more desperate is to try to prevent yourself from having as much opportunity. Now, of course, you can't busy yourself 24/7, but you can make sure you have as many things going on as possible. And of course, these things need to be positive. It's not going to help if you're spending all of your time drinking, for instance, drinking alcohol. If you're going to try to busy yourself by excessively drinking alcohol, that is certainly not going to help you. So what I'm talking about is positive things. Spending time with your friends and your family, spending time doing your hobbies and activities, spending time joining new classes, groups and clubs. These are all great ways of busying yourself. But even if you can't find anything else to do in that kind of way, you need to be thinking of things you can do in the short term that cost no money, which enable you to focus your mind. Even going for a walk can be something to really help you. Some other ideas I have involve locking your phone away at a certain time of day. Now, of course, you could get back to your phone if you absolutely needed to, but it's just that symbolic moment of putting your phone in a drawer, for instance, in a lockbox, lock it with the key, Those types of things at a certain time of day, and just almost giving yourself an extra wall to get through before you can text your ex. So anything you can do to give yourself a moment where you get to second guess yourself and think, is this the right thing I should be doing? That's going to help you. Sometimes if your phone's too accessible to you, that is when you're going to be making a mistake. So if you know you need that extra wall between you and getting to your phone, make sure you put it away somewhere where you can have that opportunity just to double check, double think, and should I be doing this? No, you shouldn't. Stop texting, stop calling, stop begging, stop pleading. So ideally, you want to be spending time with family and friends. Ideally, you want to be spending time doing activities and hobbies. Ideally, you want to be making new connections and joining new classes, groups and clubs. But if you can't do these things, or you feel that you've done everything you can and you still have moments where you really desperately want to text your ex, I would suggest going on walks. I would suggest locking your phone away. I would suggest listening to your favourite music albums from start to finish. I would suggest watching your favourite movies. I would suggest doing anything you can to busy yourself, take your mind away from thinking of your ex, and just enabling yourself to have a moment to think before you actually press that send button. Now, if you're going to watch a movie, if you're going to listen to music, please make sure it's positive. Don't be listening to things, don't be watching things which are going to make you feel sad. Okay, we ideally want to be comedies, things which are upbeat, things which are positive, things which are not associated with your ex. Don't listen to a song you did with your ex. Don't watch a movie you did with your ex. Take your mind away, because if you want to try to rebuild the trust with your ex, if you want to try to reconnect with your ex, you need to stop begging and pleading, because this is going to push them further away than bring them towards you. And if you want your ex back, you need to be bringing them towards you, regrowing romantic emotional attraction, and regaining the respect from your ex. Because unfortunately, if you're begging, if you're pleading, you're chasing them further away, and they will be likely losing further romantic emotional attraction for you. Stop the rot. Stop acting desperate. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about regaining respect from your ex, rebuilding trust after begging and pleading. And point number 2 is forgive yourself. It's so important to forgive yourself, because if you keep beating yourself up for the mistakes you've made in the past, you are never going to grow the confidence and the self-esteem that you need to reattract your ex. When we're talking about regaining respect from your ex, we also have to be respecting ourselves. And this comes from forgiving yourself. Yes, you've made a mistake. Yes, you've taken accountability. Now comes forgiving yourself. None of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Your ex is not perfect. We need to forgive ourselves. Yes, take accountability. Yes, make positive change, but then forgive yourself. When we're talking about regaining the respect, yes, first of all, you need to make sure that you're respecting your ex's decision to end the relationship, because you have no choice. If you're a dumpee and your ex, the dumper, ends the relationship, you have no choice but to respect their decision. Yes, at the time of a breakup, you can put your thoughts forward about why you don't think this should end, but when the dust has settled, you must respect their decision. They are never going to potentially change their mind if they feel that you're not listening to them. And that's why it's so important that you regain respect from your ex and you rebuild that trust. Because if you don't rebuild the trust, how can they reconnect with you? Now, you were dumped, unfortunately, because they lost romantic emotional attraction. This was for potentially various reasons, but possibly it was due to the fact that they felt you didn't listen to them. And if that was the case, and you're still not listening to them, you're still not respecting their decision, then how on earth can you expect them to want to reconnect? Now, even if it wasn't due to that, even if it wasn't because you didn't listen to your ex, do you think they're going to want to reconnect with you if they believe that they've said their thoughts, their feelings, their worries, their concerns, and you're just thinking, oh no, it doesn't matter about what you're thinking. It doesn't matter what you're saying. I don't care. I want to be with you. This works. Well, for them, right now, it doesn't work. You must listen. You must respect. If you do these things, you can start to rebuild trust. And forgiving yourself is hugely important, because if and when they grow enough romantic emotional attraction for you, they will reach out to you. You know, this is the aim. If you're a dumpee, you want to get your ex-dumper to the stage where they want to reach out to you. And if and when they do, if you are acting in a way where you are self-sabotaging any new communication you have, this is not going to help you get over the line to reconnect with your ex. So this doesn't just mean acting in a needy way if and when they reach out to you, because of course that would be just as bad. If you were dumped and you started acting needy, then you stop the neediness, but as soon as your ex contacts you, you start acting in a needy, desperate way again, that's not going to help. But it's not just about that. It's also about the fact that if they reach out to you, if you start acting in a way where you're beating yourself up, saying negative things about yourself, acting in a way where you really put yourself down, how on earth can your ex have respect for you? They've reached out to you because they've got to a stage where they've regrown a certain amount of attraction, where they've got to a stage where they miss you to a certain degree. But if you start acting like you're not worthy of them, if you start acting by overly apologising above and beyond anything that should be done, that does not make you attractive. Remember, you want to be a romantic option for your ex, not somebody that they feel sorry for or they feel pity towards, okay? So, if your ex reaches out to you, you must forgive yourself. Yes, apologise if there is something necessary to apologise for, but just do it for once, maybe twice at the most. Don't keep saying sorry time and time again. Don't act like you are not worthy. Yes, acknowledge the situation. Yes, take accountability, but there comes a point where you must forgive yourself. And that is the only way your ex will start to feel romantic, emotional attraction towards you to a level where they might consider reconnecting. Because if you don't forgive yourself, you're coming across as low value, just as you would if you were acting needy and desperate. Now, if you want support and advice about moving through your breakup recovery and about how to increase the chance of getting your ex back, maybe you want help with the potential of a communication stage arising, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service where me and you can speak one-on-one about your specific unique circumstances. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about regaining respect from your ex, rebuilding trust after begging and pleading, and point number 3 is grow in new directions. So if and when your ex reaches out to you because you've stopped acting desperate, and then when they contact you, you showcase yourself as a positive individual who has acknowledged their mistakes, but also forgiven yourself to the point of where you are not acting in a negative, low-value way. If you get to this moment, you now need to be taking things over the line with your ex to form a new relationship, and you can do this by growing in new directions before they reach out to you. So the time to take action is now, but that action is not chasing your ex. That is the begging and the pleading we're trying to avoid. We're trying to regain respect, rebuilding that trust, and you do this by growing in new directions before they contact you. And look, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back. We can't guarantee that they ever will. But if you listen to all of these points, especially point number 3, growing in new directions, if you don't hear from your ex again, you are putting yourself in a wonderful position to be more attractive, to attract somebody even better. So this is when you put in the work. Grow in new directions now, so that if and when your ex contacts you, you are a more rounded individual, you are a fuller person. I like to refer to this as a 3D character. You have more about you, certainly than they remember or they could even predict you would be. So growing in new directions covers all opportunities. Whether this is improving your mental health, maybe you're getting support in various ways, maybe you're trying to improve your attachment style, maybe you're trying to become less frustrated and angry via anger management, maybe you're removing bad substances from your life. Those types of things can be very, very positive, improving your mental health and your well-being. Perhaps you want to improve your health and fitness in a physical sense, doing more exercise, eating healthier, getting more sleep, those types of things. Maybe you want to be improving your skill set, potentially getting a new job, putting yourself in a better position to be as successful as you can be. But there are other things as well when we speak about growing in new directions, and that can be creativity. It might not be connected to a job, but it could be something where you are now more skilled. Maybe you've learned how to play a musical instrument. Maybe you can now speak a new language. All of these things and more enable you to mix with new people, make new connections, and ultimately be a more interesting person. If and when your ex contacts you, you want to be interesting, fascinating, you want to be somebody that they want to speak with again, see, date, and reconnect with. You're trying to rebuild trust. Potentially, one of the reasons you were dumped is because you were being complacent. If you grow in new directions, that shows that complacency has long gone and you're now focused on growing, being a better person. These types of things will grow romantic emotional attraction. They will grow respect. This will showcase you in a positive way. Maybe you were dumped because of substance abuse, okay? That is something that sometimes people are dumped for because their dumper doesn't feel safe within that connection for various ways within this. If this is the case, you can be going through sobriety. You could be showcasing yourself now as somebody who is sober, for instance. This is something which starts now. You can't wait for your ex to contact you and then say, hey, I've stopped drinking. I've stopped taking bad substances. That doesn't work if it's only been said right now. You need to be able to say to them, 5 months ago, I stopped taking the bad substances. You need to showcase the improvement. You need to be rebuilding the trust, regaining the respect, showing proof of concept. All of these things will help you. So it's not just about avoiding the begging and the pleading. It is about everything about you as a well-rounded individual. But when we focus on the begging and the pleading, when we consider that this is the thing that most dumpees will make the mistake for, the best way to regain respect from your ex, the best way to rebuild that trust is to stop doing it and to show proof of concept that you are not chasing them, you are not needy, you are listening to them, you are respectful, and ultimately you are growing in different directions, and therefore you've forgiven yourself because the past is the past and the future is the future. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.